Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve MacFee, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer.
All right, welcome to the Impactful Engineer. I'm Jake MacFee, founder of NLS Engineering, an electrical engineering partner in the AEC industry, and I'm here with my brother Steve, a mechanical engineering manager in new product development. We rotate between some episode types. Steve, you can kind of let the people know what we do.
Absolutely, yeah. Our most common type of episode is Jake and I getting on here and talking about a topic that we are passionate about, and we introduce the why and the how around that concept and give some tips to inspire some action. Occasionally, we do quick solo episodes where we immediately get on here and don't wait for the other person. And we're just super passionate about what we want to talk about. And we just fire it off in about 5 or 10 minutes. Usually it's high impact, high speed, and geared to have you take some action immediately. Finally, about once a month, we do have a long format guest episode where we bring in experts in a particular field to share their perspective and mindset and actionable tips around their area of genius.
Excellent. And today is a guest episode, and just like always, we don't do some long form winded intro, but I am excited today. We're going to smash through some belief systems, I think, that might be holding some people back. We're going to hit on some things that I think will help those early career engineers that maybe feel stuck, and just help people out to make some quick decisions. So listen up. I think it's going to be a great show. So welcome, Brooke MacFee, to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Jake and Steve. So I am a manufacturing engineer. I came about through to engineering because I loved math, and then because I had a fascination with the medical field between my own hospital stays and houses and shows like House, I fell into biomedical engineering in college. And over the years, I've gone through multiple niche companies. I programmed in a proprietary language for an EHR company. I worked in aerospace for a high voltage and corona-free cables in manufacturing and design, and as a quality manager. And currently, I'm a manufacturing engineer for a physical vapor deposition systems for research and development applications. My background seems very diverse, but all of my experience has been honed into developing a career in a small manufacturing company that challenges me and excites me every day. So I'm hoping to share with your audience some of the mistakes I've made along the way to stumble into this career. I used to have a quote up on my wall that was from Eleanor Roosevelt. It said, "Learn from the mistakes of others. You can't live long enough to make them all yourself." So I like to share some of the mistakes I've made.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exactly why we have the show.
Exactly. Yeah.
Quick question for your biomedical. So, like, House inspired you. Did you break into people's houses to figure out what was going wrong with your devices and do some investigation without their permission? Oh gosh, I do love that show.
It's an awesome show.
Yeah. I was thinking either you were going to go biomedical or you're going to go into, like, I don't know, be a detective or something.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those two things.
Start us off. I mean, I know you've got tons of good stuff to share. So let's break it down and let's give some value, and you can start wherever you want to. Take it away.
Yeah, so my first job out of college, I actually didn't go into an engineering position. I went into a programming position. And as an engineer, it broke my heart a little bit, but I had to pay off those loans somehow, and the financial practicality sadly won in my early years over a career, and I just want people to know that that's totally okay, and being financially responsible is part of what you want in a career. So sometimes that has to come first before actually enjoying it.
Yeah, for sure. And you just jumped right in, which is what I do all the time. So
Absolutely.
And I'm sure maybe programming, gave you some skills.
Oh, absolutely.
You learned a thing or two. Yeah.
Yeah. Programming has helped me in everything. Even nowadays with AI becoming more and more of a thing, I know how it has been very useful in learning how AI learns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can kind of speak its language to be able to get the best results.
Maybe know some of the limitations and stuff. I had to learn how to
Absolutely,
learn
yeah.
how AI learned. Like I was like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm nowhere near this. I just like what it does, and I'm typing stuff, you know. So that first job, though, was there anything in particular that maybe you brought with you that was a major life lesson from the first job?
Between programming and engineering, I thought that, well, I am an introvert, but I thought that I was the most introvert of introverts until my very first day at this company. I said, all right, I'm going to get out there. I'm going to meet people. Like, look at me go. The very first person I said hi to looked at me and turned around and walked the other way.
Deer in headlights.
Deer in headlights. So I said, okay, maybe I'm underestimating myself in this particular field. So I took that and used it in a lot of other fields that, yeah, maybe I'm underestimating myself more than I think I am.
Just the fitting in, or you thought maybe you were this ultimate introvert and that proved to you that maybe you're a step ahead, or how is that come to fruition?
I thought that I wasn't a people person. I thought that I could. All of my friends in college, they're like, oh yeah, I want to go in and I want to be a manager. I don't want to do any of this technical stuff. I just want to manage. And I said, nope, I want to be locked in a room by myself doing all the technical stuff, and I don't want to deal with people. But even that first interaction, I said, okay, maybe I'm not the most introverted. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, there's levels to this.
There's levels to this, and maybe I need to give myself a little bit more credit.
Yeah, maybe you're boxing yourself in somehow.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how long were you at that first role? How long did you survive the programming with the other introverts that were way more introverted?
Yes, I was there for about 2 years, and then I got a call from a company that I interned at. I interned there during college over the summers, and they had an opening for a manufacturing engineering role. So I went back to design and build cables, cable assemblies for high voltage being minimum of 10,000 volts. And from there.
Good. I was going to just say good to define.
Yes.
And what does it mean to say high voltage? But keep going.
Oh, no. I once had someone say, oh, yeah, be careful of this. It's very high voltage, 800 volts. And I said, oh,
that's cute.
That's adorable.
So this second company just called you out of the blue, or were you thinking, man, I got to get out of this programming thing. It's nice money, but let's get somewhere else.
I had been in talks with some people who were still there. And they were mumbling that they needed some more help. So I gave a call to the president and said, I heard that you might need some help. Is that true?
Nice.
So
call the president directly.
That's what's so great about small companies. It was actually I found a few small companies over the years that when I wanted a job, out of the blue, just sending your resume to the president of the company, if they're kind of looking for someone, they may forward, if they like your resume, they'll forward it on, and that's going to get seen. If it's
the importance, there's so many things here, Steve. The importance of network, all the stuff we've said, right?
The importance of network, but also I don't think people should limit themselves with even large companies. Send it to the president anyways. I mean,
absolutely.
Like, how's that going to hurt? You have more people to send it to. You can send it to the president, and you can send it to the chief of engineering or the lead HR person, et cetera, et cetera. But if the higher position eyes that land on your resume, the more opportunities you'll see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And maybe maybe Google, you might not have the huge success emailing the president of the company, but hey, do it anyway.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? What's the worst that can happen?
Mm-hmm.
So, and Brooke, you had a good, like we talked before this, and you had a good example of not only just not being afraid of sending your resume, like just send it out, make the calls, do the stuff, but also like what you put on your resume as maybe your hook. You're sharing more about yourself
Yeah.
and how that works. And I feel like people are just, especially engineering, it's like, oh, we just need to stick straight to the accomplishments and all that, and not share anything about ourselves. But I think you took a different approach, and it worked out really well for you.
Oh, yeah, that was actually at the company that I'm at now. I had gotten to a point that I just wanted a company that I fit really well into, not necessarily a company that I found a spot for myself, one that was unknowingly looking for me. So I wanted to put myself into it. So I did all the technical hubbub. Yeah, I brought a company up to AS9100D and all the technical jargon. And then I had an interests section. The first one was something about like, oh yeah, I love solving puzzles. But the second one was, I want to pet every single dog I see.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one was that I was powerlifting. And that was actually the one that caught eyes at the time because they were open to bringing someone in on their service team, but a lot of the equipment was very heavy, and it's hard to know whether or not someone's going to be able to lift 80 plus pounds of equipment.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if you say, hey, I have a third place trophy in powerlifting, yeah,
You can assume.
I can do that. You can assume that I'm going to be able to lift that.
Lifted 500 pounds on a barbell, like
Yeah.
accomplishment. They're like, whoa,
Oh,
we might be able to do this. I like that story because there's probably, and we can dive into it, like getting there too, right? Like getting to the point where you're like, I'm going to put some stuff on here that tells a little more about me. And I love how that one just like lined up. Like, hey man, we need like people to be able to lift heavy stuff, and you're just like, I'm a powerlifter. It's like, okay,
It's like, win.
check,
Yeah.
like, got that. But also like, petting every dog you see. It's like it just shows who you are and what's at your heart too. And people, when you can layer an emotion onto a need, that's when kind of like the magic happens. It's like, man, we really need this person to come in, and I also feel like they'd be a great fit. I also feel like we would get along and stuff like that. It alleviates a bunch of fear, and that's a real winning formula,
Yeah.
And I recommend people just play with it. Like put it. What's going to happen? The resume gets tossed like the other one.
Yeah, it really is helpful. I mean, as someone who does a ton of resume reviews, I always look for the personal interest or hobbies or extracurriculars that people list, especially when I'm hiring engineers, and if they are just super passionate about something that involves either an adjacent thing to engineering or something that directly involves engineering, like, hey, I love building race cars, or I love doing robotics competitions, or et cetera, et cetera. It just shows that passion and that they just want to be an engineer and just dive right into it. And then, of course, if you have things that your job specifically requires, like heavy lifting, and hey, they lift weights. It's like a perfect match. That it's just one less barrier for that full compatibility.
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers. If there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, it's to keep listening to the podcast, but also that if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show.
I think it opens trust too. Did you feel like when you either had the interview on top of that resume or the first day on the job, was there more trust? Were you in a place that you thought maybe you fit more than you had before?
Oh, absolutely. Because with the dogs, it was a very dog-friendly environment, which there were a few dogs running around the office, which was great. And it just opened up conversation right off the bat of, did you really put that on your resume? Yes, I did.
Yeah, and just own it. Yeah.
So there was like you had an assignment, I guess, in this, or a task in this, the first day or the first week or something that you were talking about, but it was almost like full autonomy. Like, was there a story there that you could share that maybe what you brought to the company, they trusted you right away, and then I think you went on and just created something with very little direction. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I was told to, I was handed a piece of equipment and said, hey, build this. Was given the procedure of how to build it and told, good luck. I wasn't told where all of the equipment was. So I think it was a bit of a test to see what I was going to be like to work with. So I got to a certain point where there were some crimp lugs, and I saw the color. I said, hey, I've got an X crimp size. Where's the crimping tool? And they all stopped and looked at me. They said, you know what that is? Yes, I just came from cables. What? Of course I knew what this is. And so I jumped in there and not only just knew where to go off the bat, I knew what questions to ask once I got stuck. And I think that was really important to show. So when you have those kind of opportunities, that when you do get stuck, at least get all the information together that you have to be able to ask the correct questions.
Yeah. And you can bring, all the skills that you've stacked up to this point, turn into really good questions when you're put on the spot like that to do something with vague direction. So it's like, I always recommend that people reflect on what have I actually, even if it's a terrible job, even if you're wading through something that's just like, this is not where I want to be. I can't wait to get to my next thing. Like, consider focusing on what you've learned and all the, because you're not learning anything, right? You're just struggling, or you don't fit, or it's just, you just know it's not aligned, but you're still learning. You're still stacking skills. And so don't allow that, like, need to be somewhere else or want or desire to leave or go do something else, like, take away from what you've learned and being able to bring that with you to your next job, because then that's going to help. Like, you can always take something with you is really the point I'm trying to make. So, like, always be reflecting back on what have you learned, even the past week. It'll inform what you know and what you can do in the future too.
Yeah, those skill building is the most important through engineering, because it's just such a lot of the jobs that we do are very broad in scope. So you never know what you're going to pick up where, and to be able to apply it.
Right.
Yeah. And even if you do something at one job and you notice that it's like, wow, this is not an efficient way to do it, or, this is a terrible way to do it. And then you go to a new place and they're like, hey, we're thinking about, running this project this way. And you're like, well, actually, I've done it that way before and it's terrible. And here's why. And I think it would be better if we kind of went this direction instead. You still got value from that previous experience. And, like, no matter how terrible jobs can be, how boring they can be, if they're completely misaligned to what your dream job is, if as long as you get something started right out of school and then you're just learning skills, one way or the other, whether it's negative or positive, you're always going to be able to apply that later. Yeah,
what I've learned not to do is like on par with what I've learned to do. It almost seems like.
Yes.
Yeah. So pay attention to both. This might be stepping backwards in time, but there was a point in time where you just jumped into a role, or I think it was a management position.
Yeah.
But I think there's good stuff there about taking on, things despite having fear. I'd like you to share what that experience was like, and maybe how it shaped you or what you learned from it.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to become a quality manager, and it was also when I was very, very young. 24. I was a baby in this role, which had which had a lot to do with how I handled the role at the time. But I was also the first female manager at this company, so I didn't want to go into it as feeling like, oh, I've got a chip on my back because I'm the female engineer. I also never wanted to be a female engineer. I didn't go to college to be a female biomedical engineer.
Yeah.
I went
Just an engineer.
I went yeah, an engineer. I don't want the qualifier. It doesn't change my technical abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And going into this management, I didn't want others to throw the qualifier on me, so I didn't want to do it, but I have to acknowledge that it's there because there was a lot of times that I found issues with the team dynamics of me asking, hey, I need this I need this report done from Friday from all of the departments, and getting the response of, oh, look, Brooke needs something from us. Look at you, tried to be all assertive.
Yeah, this is insane.
Yeah. And then, so I went from that and went full force the opposite way of being a little too assertive and going, whoa, what? And people being very standoffish with me because I was then being overly assertive because I wasn't being heard at first. And I know that a lot of that has to be that because I was very young.
Mhm.
But going through that, I learned so much about working with people in a management position, as working with my inspectors, working with the production crew, and it showed me more about how everyone interacts more than any other position. The inputs and outputs of each department.
Yeah, for our female listeners, I'd like it if you could kind of dive into that a little bit, and like how did you diffuse some of that stigma, right? As being the only female engineer, and get to a point of equilibrium with your peers.
In that position, I didn't properly do it, and that was on me. I did take the qualifier, as I mentioned, a little too much to heart, and became overly defensive. But nowadays, I just stand behind my technical abilities, and that's all I can do. If someone thinks any more about it than that, then that's on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've found the engineers around me calling things out of, did he just say that you should be making kitchen equipment?
Oh my
rather
gosh.
than
Wow. Did
Stuff
that
like
actually
that.
happen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
Jesus.
man.
Well,
I've been
it's
surrounded by wonderful engineers that have been very supportive of me. And that's been the biggest thing, is I've surrounded myself with people who don't see the female engineer in the room. They just see a room full of engineers, and I really appreciate that.
Yes.
Yeah, early on in my career, like I kind of had the same experience. Not the same that a female engineer would, but that I was young. I was like 23, 24, and I was thrust into a management position. And like, from my perspective, I didn't know like if I had any authority. Like, I'm just like, dude, these people, like, they're so experienced. They're very good at their jobs, but somebody saw like a management type of ability, right? And in me. And then so they're like, okay, let's like, Jake can get the troops together and point them in the right direction. He doesn't necessarily know all the technical stuff yet, which invited some pretty good criticism. You know what I mean? Like, what have you done, Junior? You know, like, how, you don't know jack shit about what we're trying to get done, and how would you know? And so I didn't handle it well. I got like super defensive and assertive too, and kind of like tried to throw around like, well, I'm the manager. You just got to do what I tell you to do, and so I've had a similar experience just with the being a newbie, being surrounded by people that know very much what they're doing, and they're experts, right? And I think for me, it was about inviting them to tell me all about their expertise and give me the roadmap to helping them, which was very hard for me because I was just like, oh, I'm supposed to just like know. And then it wasn't until later that I look back and I'm like, you weren't really supposed to know. You're just kind of there to bring everybody together as best you can. But then, you are the newbie. So take the advice. Your seat is important. Your position is important. And yeah, you're going to do things that these other people don't have to worry about. And in fact, that's something that someone new to a management position can definitely take advantage of, is that just let them know, like, I'm here to take all the hits, schedule all these meetings, be the face, like, and just get hammered just so that you guys can focus, and do your thing that you do well. And so I want to do that for you. And if I'm ever stepping on you and I'm not doing that well, you just let me know so that I can make a change. Looking back, that was the best way. And that's not the only way, but it was the thing that helped me the most once I like caught on, after a couple of years of just being pushing back and all that. Like that's what I learned from that.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned was to go sit down with the production people, the technicians or the inspectors, and say, I have no idea what you're doing. Can you show me? And make sure that they know that they're the expert in this conversation. And when you allow them to be the expert, it somehow comes back around and everyone feels like they're on the same level now. And really you are. Everyone's trying to get the product out the door, get the best quality out there. So if you know what they're working on, you can better manage and help keep other departments out of their way, or make sure that I had one thing where I sat there with some parts and went, where in the world are all of the mating receptacles? Oh, you have to go down the hall to the left, and then you have a bin. I think it's the third bin, and it's probably in the back. No, we're going to reorganize this so that you don't just take 30 minutes just looking for a receptacle. Like that's not what we're doing here.
Right.
And that's the other good thing about being new, being the newbie, is that you have no idea what's going on. So when people have found different workarounds for processes that aren't actually working, you can call those out and go, why are we taking the long way there? Because when people have been doing something so long, they don't realize that they're doing it the long way. So being new, having those fresh eyes can be so helpful.
Yeah, and you get to just ask, like, hey, show me how we find the receptacle quickly for this. I just, I have no idea. And then you get the excuse to talk about it. Steve, I know with management, you probably have like a million examples. Any truth bombs you want to drop on the new manager? I think you've had a few.
I mean, what you said earlier is what I was going to chime in with, so you kind of stole my thunder there. But just to reiterate, it's going in with a humble mindset and asking for their expertise and inviting them to, tell you on how things should work. And then all you have to do is make slight adjustments if you see that it needs a little bit of improvement. But the core of whatever you're talking about is their idea or their input. They're going to be bought in. They're going to kind of love that direction. And now you have a slight improvement, right? So it's if they say, hey, this this design, really needs to accomplish this, and there's a little bit better way to do it. You can just add a little bit on top of that, but still use everything that they brought up. And then they're going to be super excited about it, and then they're going to be pumped, and then that builds the trust between you and them, and then from there on out, you're going to have a stronger relationship where you can add more input, and then they will feel more comfortable giving their input.
Yeah, I found that to work pretty well. Trying to go in and just with a hammer and smash everything, which I've done before, it doesn't work so well.
Yeah, if you don't have that buy-in, then no one's going to actually make any change.
Yeah, they'll put up the walls of resistance.
Yep.
Yeah, and what we've been talking about, really, like to focus it into a point, is really about breaking down those walls of resistance. That strategy works really, really well. I kind of want to get into a little bit, because I imagine early career is a lot of figuring out where you fit, and then lots of interviewing in the beginning, unless you've had like a shoe-in, but then interviewing after a couple years once you gain some skills. What is there an interview that you've done that you think you might be able to tie back to maybe some advice for the young people that, well, I mean, first off, whatever advice you want to give, I know you've had some interesting interview stories, one with a government job, but some people, in my experience, are afraid to interview while they have a job. They're afraid to look. They think they need to be super loyal. So that's like one path. I don't think that's true. I think you should always be looking and interviewing and at least getting to know people so that you can pull the trigger when you need to. But yeah, anything like that you could share. I know that one story is fairly entertaining.
Yes, but I do have another one that I just remembered that was huge. I had spoken with this manager, and he said he had worked very closely with a particular college that he knew what these college graduates had learned. So he would purposely ask questions that he knew that they weren't going to know the answer. And he's like, so what do you think happens? I said, you probably just get people looking at you very confused. He said, no, I get a lot of people making stuff up. He's like, I asked the question, I know the answer, and these people have wound their way up and have now convinced themselves that they know the answer. He said, I don't want that person working for me. I said, that's a very interesting tactic.
That's very key insight there.
Yeah. The other one that he does is that he will sit there and not speak. And I've done it with him.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Like 30 seconds. He'll sit there. And he said some people will just open up and tell you their deepest, darkest secrets. He's like, and I don't want that either.
The pause.
The pause.
See how uncomfortable you get.
Yeah.
We can do it right now. Actually, we don't need to do it right now. We'll drop a bunch of listeners.
They're like, and off.
But oh my gosh, that's a good one. I'd forgotten all about that. I think people do that. They'll just make up stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like the interviewer is not knowledgeable on what the realm of the answer would be to that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we advise, right? Let's bring tactical. What do we advise that you do in that situation?
If you have absolutely no idea, you say, I don't know. Some people say, I don't know, I'll get back to you on that. I think that's silly advice because
in an interview.
It's in an interview. You can't get back to them.
Yeah.
You can give a little bit of background of, well, I know this little bit around here, around this particular subject, but I honestly couldn't give you a concrete answer.
I just did it in an interview myself. I still like for my business, I interview to win jobs. And and the person straight up asked me, and it was all about the intricacies of VFDs. And it's like, yeah, I know people that know the ins and outs of control systems and specifically VFDs. right? I know how to provide the power and the controls up to the VFD, and I know that Division 23 and 25, and they handle a ton of all of this communication in the building. I know there's preferred vendors. I can write a performance spec, but do I know everything about VFDs? Absolutely not. And the question was framed in such a way that it was going to be deep and detailed. And I said, just let me stop you right there. The answer is I have no clue. But here's the other answer that I know is also valuable. And I know how to handle it because I haven't had my head in the sand. And I know how it affects the outcome of the work in a very positive way. And it's a proven method, right? But if you want to get into details and start writing a spec down to the letter, like, I can't help you do that, you know? And so basically I said no. And then I filled in some other stuff.
Yes.
What do
The
you?
no and.
The no and. What do you think, Steve?
No, you keep doing this to me in this conversation.
It's like we spend too much time with each other.
I know, right? Your example is far better than any that I could just make up. But essentially saying I don't actually know that technical thing, but this is either my assumption or I know this is the related application, et cetera, et cetera. That's the general answer, right? But yours is a very solid actual example. So,
but like also too, I just thought of this one. It's you could tell them or give them insight into how you would if it was a figure it out type of question. Mm-hmm. If it's not a very yes or no thing, I mean, you can just say no if it's yes or no. But you could also, if it's a technical thing, you could also show them how you think.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to follow up with is that there's a lot of questions that I ask in interviews that are technical, and I know that the answers are going to be really hard to figure out, but I want to see how they would go about figuring things out, or like their thought process, and are they going to just ask me a bunch of questions, which is fine? Are they going to make up stuff, which is not the greatest, right? Or are they just going to be straight up and be like, hey, I don't know that, but XXX. You can really get into how they process a scenario where they don't know the answer. So
we don't want we don't want our AI to hallucinate, and we don't want you to make stuff up.
Yeah. And the pause thing is incredibly effective. And I also like to ask questions in my interviews that are like two parts, because I want to see if they're listening to the actual question. And so I'll say, tell me about a blah, 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 blah. And then after that, tell me blah, blah, blah. And if they answer the question to the first part and don't immediately roll into the second, I will just sit there and wait for like 10 seconds, which is an incredibly long time in an interview. And I'm like, and then I will jump in and be like, so when I asked the question, I asked you this, which you answered, but I also asked this. And then you can see it in their eyes. They're like, oh shit. But it's important, right? Because you want someone who's able to listen to all the details of the question, not just immediately jump into their pre-cooked answer of something because they heard a key word in your question.
They could also repeat. Like I do that if I miss something.
Yeah, you do.
You know what? Honestly, I missed it. Who knows? Just brain gap, whatever. Could you repeat the question just so I know I'll nail it? Something like that,
Yeah, or you repeat the question back to them, so that way you have it more ingrained in your mind, so you can remember the two parts.
Brooke, you ever run into the long silence in an interview? That ever happen to you?
I've done it to a couple people.
Gotcha.
And I've actually gotten people to just sit through it. I've been very impressed whenever I've done it. People are just sitting there like, oh.
Yeah. Then it's a game of chicken.
Yeah.
Who's going to talk first?
And then I'm the one who chickens out. Go, okay, let's go for that tour.
Nice. I don't know. I kind of want to rehash the government contract interview. I think there's a lesson or two to pull out of there, or maybe it's just a good entertaining story. But what was that like?
Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot from it. But I found this government job posting, and I swear this posting looked like they took my resume and made a job listing from it. very specific job details. It was everything I had done. So I interviewed a few rounds, and they said, and we had discussed a salary, which I liked a lot, and I was told that I got the job. So I almost put in my 2 weeks that day. And my mother, thank goodness, said, I don't think you should do that. And I said, it's the government. What's going to happen? After, I don't know, 4 to 6 months of trying to contact HR, I finally got my offer letter. And it was the salary on my offer letter was less than half of what we had originally discussed. And so I went back to the manager who hired me and asked what was going on. I wanted to discuss the government because the government has different step levels. I wanted to see if we could go in and readjust what level I was on to at least come a little closer to the salary that we had discussed. But she told me, if you cared about this job and was truly dedicated to it, the money wouldn't matter.
Yeah, so
and
crazy.
I was horrified. And I think if I had been told that a year or two earlier, I would have been like, oh no, I'm dedicated. Watch how dedicated I am.
Because it works, right?
Mhm.
Because it works.
It
And
does.
Yeah.
but it doesn't work for long, because
No.
if that was her management, if that was their management style, I wouldn't have survived.
Yeah, like early on, Jake would have probably felt a little bad about like the expectation of like it should match what we talked about. Today, Jake would be like, just because you're miserable in your HR job and you suck at it doesn't mean I need to join your circus.
Mhm.
Like, I'm out of here.
Oh no, this was the chief engineering officer was telling
even
me this.
better.
This wasn't even HR. This was the engineer.
Yeah. Wow. What a good strategy. But
Yeah.
okay, lesson for the young folks. Maybe, I mean, certain exceptions apply, but maybe don't tell your current employer until the deal's done,
Mhm.
you know, because as soon as it's out of the bag, that changes the entire story with now and in the future. But yeah, so that's my advice from that story. Don't just jump the gun on that. Make sure the deal is set. Have that signed offer letter in your hands before you do make that move.
And also, when you're interviewing with the company, you're interviewing them too. The way that they discuss and talk to you in those interviews is the way that you're going to be treated in the workplace. So you need to ask the right questions to know if it's going to be a good fit on that side as well. Because that shame manipulation tactic, I read too much Brene Brown to be okay with getting thrown around shame there.
Yeah.
Yes, and your radars. I mean, you got it. Like you just know immediately. I have tons of experience with it too, personally. So it's like,
Yeah, and I think it's very valuable, especially if you're local to wherever you're applying, to go visit the location and try to get a plant tour or a floor tour or whatever, because you can just see the atmosphere. It'll only take you a few minutes to really get at least a slice of the culture, and all your internal red flags will just be swinging up if it's a toxic environment, and that right there will be enough to be like, this is not the right spot. Or it could be the other way around. You could be like, wow, these people are hustling around. They are excited to be here. Everyone is either like a super focused look or they have a smile on their face. And they like, I can just feel the energy in this space. And that could alter the discussion when it comes to salary and the role that you would get coming in. Because if the salary is like, it's like 90% what I'm after, but man, this place seems just amazing. And it looks like there's also a lot of growth opportunity. Well, then maybe it's worth a shot.
yeah, and like a huge red flag is if they don't want to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's certain companies where it's like, you're just grateful that they said something back, you know? And it could be a little harder to take that stance but I think it's there was some jobs that I either didn't take or that I did take that, and then looking back, it's like, yeah, I didn't do the on-site go visit with the team interview, and that would have shown me a lot about the company and the culture and all that stuff. That would have changed my ultimate decision. Who knows? But I think that's a good one to have in the requirements bucket, is to get on site and go see these people.
Yeah. I mean, at bare minimum, talk to as many people as you can, right? I mean, the current role that I'm in now, we had 5 or so interviews with different people throughout the process. And a couple of them were like panels. So you'd have multiple people, and just talking to, 8 to 10 people in interviews can give you a decent slice just in itself from conversation, right? Because you could always ask them questions when you're being interviewed. Usually you're given 5-10 minutes at the end of an interview to ask your own questions, and don't just go, oh, what's the pay? Oh, what are the hours? Like that's HR shit that you can touch on. You want to ask, like,
I almost
hey,
spit my matcha out, Steve. What are the hours?
You have no idea how often I get that question.
No way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anyways, ask, like, what's your favorite part about working here? What excites you the most? What's the hardest thing that you've accomplished here? You can ask all kinds of like interview questions to the people that are interviewing you, and that's going to give you so much valuable information to be able to make a call on your end whether or not you want to take the offer.
Gives you a chance to show some human side.
Mm-hmm. And as someone who interviews people, when they ask me those questions, they go up a couple ranks in the grand scheme of things, because I know that that's important to them.
Another important and something I want to hit. I don't care how much time we're going to spend on it. It's very important. Is so going back to like what you do at the job, because we're switching gears all over the place. I know. I'm sorry. We were talking about interviewing at your job, how important it is to be hands-on. And I know all of us in the room here agree with that. So, but we'll start with Brooke. And what's your thoughts on how important it is for, getting the hands-on experience, either working somewhere where they're always getting hands-on experience, or maybe manufacturing some of that for yourself and asking to get some hands-on experience?
Yeah, so I've come to call engineers who don't get hands-on experience a paper engineer. I once worked with an engineer who a technician came in and said, this jacket doesn't fit. And he looked at the parts in front of him and looked at the computer, looked at the parts, and said, well, it works on the computer.
It's my favorite phrase.
And that was his honest reaction. One of the other engineers stood up and said,
It's right
you
there.
just actually say that? You see it in front of you. But this is what can happen. It's an easy blind spot if you don't make a conscious decision, a conscious effort to go down to the production floor and get your hands on the product. Whether sometimes it's just inspecting something in process, or actually go, hey, can I get my hands on this build? Like I want to put this one together. It's knowing what the other people in the company need. We have internal and external customers, but the production for me at least, the production technicians are one of my biggest internal customers. And if I'm not hands-on with the product and what I'm giving them, then how am I going to actually know what they need? If I'm starting to put something together and going, I have no idea what this looks like. This drawing doesn't show me anything. Well, I need to get up there, back to my computer, and figure out what's the best way to show this, to be able to get the best deliverable out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. I love that, and that coupled with something you said earlier too, about when you're in their management role, right? Getting or asking them for their advice is, so when you get on either the internal factory floor, or you're going to another supplier that is making stuff for your business, when you get your hands on, like, not only are you getting that technical information of like, hey, how does this fit and go together, etc., but you're also building the relationships with the supplier or your internal customers, and it increases the trust between you and them in that relationship. And when you can't go on the floor, you can call up and be like, hey, Jack, I really need this stuff. What's your advice on implementing this? And, because you already have that established relationship, they're going to be like, oh yeah, you just need this and this and this. And, call me if you need anything else. And it's just so much more efficient and more cohesive and powerful that I think it's beyond the technical side of things is basically what I'm trying to say is you get the technical, but you also get the trust in the relationships.
Yeah, I'll stay high level. Like, I have a ton of examples being in the construction industry, but it's like, just to realize that no engineer is literally the where the thing starts and stops. So, and it doesn't matter if your entire company is set up to do only analysis, only computer, drafted drawings or doing calculations. All of that happens before it gets to you and after it leaves your purview. There's going to be a hands-on component to it, and it's going to be very important that you just know the flow. Like, so at least know where you fit, and then know what the hands-on components are and how you play a role in that flow of information and that work. Because if you don't, first off, there could be someone that you're handing things off to that just fixes what you do every time and never tells you, which then leaves the opportunity for you to have a huge blind spot, and then also for someone else who makes that person's life easier because they do know all of the ins and outs of the hands-on and they fix it before it gets to them, could take your work from you. So it could put your company at risk. There's a whole lot of things outside of that. There's a lot of influence and things moving around here. So this is why I love this one. The hands-on stuff is super important. So just get out there, learn where you fit, and then go talk to some people and frame it in such a way that they'll be so excited to tell you about what they got going on. And you'll learn so much. And then you'll be able to spread that knowledge around. I guess, you know what? I guess the final two, well, before I move on to our final two questions, is there anything that you're doing, Brooke, that you would like people to know about? Did you have, are you active on certain platforms? Would you like people to reach out? What do you have going on?
I'm working part-time right now. I've just had a little boy, so I am actually working remote, but I am on LinkedIn. You can always message me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to help with any questions or any advice that people might have, just to connect.
Awesome. And we'll put that in the show notes so that people can find it easy. And then let's do our final two questions. I think I'll do mine first, Steve. Leave the highly impactful one for the last question. So mine is like, what's one action listeners could take today, either from the show or something completely new that you want to share, to overall improve their career?
So I went back and forth, and I have two. I know you said one, but I have two.
Priority. No, two is fine.
Okay. You know what? No. You know what? One of my things is that priority used to always be, the word priority never had a plural form of it, because priority means one. So you know what? You're correct. I'm only doing one. It's something that I talk about all the time, and I'm sure that anyone who's ever worked with me rolls their eyes at it every single time. So you're right. Only one thing. So the one thing that I think on the same level, the one thing that people can do is to print out the Eisenhower matrix and post it somewhere by your desk. So the Eisenhower matrix shows the best way to, or a way to figure out what is your number one priority or the things that you should be spending the most time on. There's 4 different quadrants, and it's do, plan, delegate, and eliminate. Do are your things that are important and urgent. This is tasks with a deadline that affects different stakeholders. Plan are important things that aren't urgent. This is usually things that are the hardest to actually plan and make time for, but they're higher level. These could be new procedures or just overall improvements to product, to workflow. Not important, but urgent. These are things to delegate. They're most of the time they're your emails or little tasks that people want done right away. Sometimes when you are starting out, you can't actually delegate these things. You don't have anyone to delegate them to, but you can create rules to be able to minimize these. So delegate or minimize. And then not important, not urgent. These are the things to eliminate. And these are the things that usually break down your whole day that we've talked about before are usually things that are blind spots that you have a lot of workarounds for. It's poor documentation or bad procedures where you're just creating workarounds all day. To eliminate these things, usually you do have to put something into plan to be able to totally eliminate them. But I've found that looking at the Eisenhower matrix every day has been very helpful for me to determine what needs to be done and what's not actually important.
Yeah. I used to live in the delegation box because I would just I had a team and like I could just give everything away. It was amazing. I live in the eliminate box a lot these days just to prioritize. I love eliminating things. Delete, because this is, I think it's important, but it doesn't actually move the needle on anything. So I'm just gonna not do it anymore. Delete it.
I think another thing that fits in the eliminate is distractions, right? It might be something that you're like, oh, shiny thing, but that doesn't actually move me forward towards my goal. So I don't need to be doing that. So those generally always live in the elimination box. And then another thing I'd like to touch on is you said, you don't really get to do the delegation as a new employee. And I think it depends. That in our company, we have like, so we do product development. We have a CAD team, right, that does the actual CAD design. As an engineer, you come in and you're more of a project manager engineer type person. And so you can delegate, you can do the design work, but you can also delegate some of those CAD tasks, right? So there's always going to be some form of delegation that you're able to do no matter what rank. It could be very, very small, but I think always looking for those opportunities to exercise delegation as much as possible is going to be critically important. And I do love the Eisenhower matrix. It's one of the easiest ones to implement like immediately.
Yeah. Here's a pro tip. If you're delegating, know the other person's Eisenhower matrix. If it lives in their priority,
there you go.
That's who you delegate it to. Don't give them stuff they want to throw away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, go ahead, Brooke. I have a funny story, but I'll pull up.
Yeah, no, making sure that they're not going to also delegate it is important. Yeah,
yes. Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a real quick funny story. So there was an engineer that I knew that had a task, and they decided to delegate it to the VP of the company.
Oh yeah.
It's like, so what are you doing?
That's another one. Delegate down and maybe across, not up.
Yeah. I don't want to go into detail because obviously I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but that was hilarious.
Good lesson.
Yeah. All right. So my question is a little more high level, just kind of a broad overview of what does it mean to you to be an impactful engineer?
So I went through a bunch of different things, but I was just circling around the same idea of an impactful engineer or a positively impactful engineer is someone who is solving more issues than you find or create.
Yeah.
Because as an engineer, you're going to find a lot of issues, and actually being a good engineer to identify those issues is important. But someone who cleans those up and solves those that's the engineer that's going to make the most impact.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think as you did, Jake, there's a pro tip to that is when you do find those problems, come with the solution already prepared, and then you will always stay in the positive.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I was just like, oh, that's good. Because like we all kind of like know, maybe we don't realize, but we do know that when we solve problems, we're just creating more. Like every solution comes with another problem. But yeah, don't have the solution come with more problems than before. Unless you're really like, this is on purpose and this is, we have to get worse before we get better. Maybe, but make it on purpose. Yeah, I like that. That's a huge one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
Well, thank you so much, Brooke, for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah.
Take us away, Steve.
Yep. And if to our listeners, if you learned something today, and of course, I know you did, or think someone else needs to hear our point of view, or especially Brooke's point of view, please share this show. It's the best way we can grow the podcast and continue to create value and impact for the engineering community.